Welcome to Elementary School District 159 meeting, Board of Education meeting. It is now 6:33. I'd like to start out by saying thank you to and welcoming the teachers back. They do start school on Monday, so thank you so much. We had a chance to meet the new teachers today as well. Looking forward to them working in Elementary School District 159 and welcoming back our new teachers as well. Roll call. Pledge of allegiance. Our mission statement, Mrs. Phillips. Thank you. And now I'll turn it over to our superintendent for our superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, everyone. This has been an exciting but busy week at Elementary School District 159. Always the week prior to the opening of school is a busy week, but we cherish it because it's a lot of work, but it's for a good cause, and that's for our children. This week, we have had our administrative retreat, which was great. The administrative team got together to come together to strategize, to talk about the goals and direction for the district for the 2022 school year, as well as do some strategic thinking. We also had our new teachers, Ms. Morton said, we had our new teacher orientation today, and they are excited and eager, and we have welcomed them into our team here at Elementary School District 159. Tomorrow and Friday, we will have our Staff Institute Days, and we have a blended model of activities that they will engage in. Some will be at their home school, and some will be here at Powell Middle School. So we're looking for 2 days of exciting activities and events that will lead us or transition us into the new school year. Our reopening guidance is now online and available to all who would like to see our direction in terms of COVID mitigations for the new school year. We had a town hall meeting last week that was service. We had about 229 guests that serviced our town hall meeting where we talked about the guidance and to give the parents a better understanding, the parents in the community, a better understanding of how we were going to open school. That was one of the most critical questions that was being asked. What were we going to do and how were we going to open schools safely? I'm going to give the STEM Center update next, if there's not any questions. Not yet, but we are answering them. There's a lot. There was like 144 questions. I think we might have only got to 30-something questions. So that's a lot of questions. Some of them were duplicate, and we will be merging those questions, but we're going to put a Q&A sheet on the website. No, those 30 questions were answered at the town hall meeting, and there was a remaining 100. There was like 144 total questions. Am I right, Ms. Friday? And so we might have got to number 30 before time was up. We spent an hour and a half in that session. And so the rest of them, we said we would do a Q&A and post it on the website. Or post it on the website? We could get it done next week. Yeah, we'll have it up by next week. That's right. So our update for the STEM Center. The detention pond is excavated. Field and all spoils from the detention pond pond excavation has been hauled off. All extra fill from the project have been hauled off site as well. Storm drains and structure are installed in the parking lot area. Sanitary sewer lines are in progress. A process plan is being developed for water, main, and storm sewer connections. And these connections will be made in the streets and will require approval by the governing agency, which is Matheson, the village of Matheson. The plan will be submitted to the appropriate agencies for approval. Foundation excavation and concrete work will begin next week, weather permitting. And that is an update for the STEM District Facility Center. And next, Madam President, I'm going to bring forward Dr. Adams to talk about the district's comprehensive district plan.
Good evening. Happy Wednesday, everybody, as we are preparing for a warm and inviting opening to our new school year. We're eager to see our babies coming back to school on next week, and so we are preparing for that to happen. I am going to share with you a little bit about our consolidated district plan. I am seeking board approval for this plan. This is an annual requirement that we have from the state of Illinois. What this plan does is provides an opportunity for us to share how we have coordinated all of our federal spending dollars. So we have to spend time as various departments, as Dr. Johnson, Dr. Branch, myself, Mrs. Friday, Dr. Hill, any funding that we're getting from the federal government, we have to include the opportunity for us to collaborate and make sure that all of the goals that we're trying to accomplish are coordinated and they're the same goals. So this plan allows for us to do that and document that we have done that. It is an annual requirement. When we talk about coordinating the federal funding, we're looking at all of our title grants, Title I, Title II, Title III, 4, IDEA, our preschool grant. We utilize, or we talk about those things, and we talk about how we are addressing our needs as a particular district. So we focus on areas like stakeholder involvement processes, preschool coordination, student achievement, timely graduation, safe and healthy learning environment, providing a well-rounded instructional program, parent and family engagement, and sign and design. We had to do a foster care transportation process, which comes out of student services with Dr. Johnson. So all of these descriptors are included in the copies that you have, and it outlines exactly what we have done, the steps we have taken to ensure that we are in alignment with those requirements from ISB. This document is located on iOS as well, so we submit it electronically to the State Board of Education, but before we are able to do that, it does require board approval. And so I am here today seeking that board approval so we can submit this document to the state. Once we have approval on this document and it is accepted by the state, we then can receive approval for those grants that were outlined before. So the Title I, Title II, none of that can be approved until after we submit this particular document to the state. So that's what we're seeking tonight. And are there any questions regarding that plan? I know it's a lengthy document, but it is a state requirement.
It's lengthy because it goes across various departments, and you have to merge the vision of all departments into one vision that we will carry out through the school year.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next I'm going to bring Dr. Johnson forward. He's going to talk about the summer project update and timeline, and also the transportation crisis and just to give an update on where we are in registration and enrollment.
Good evening. First and foremost, updates. We concluded, we had, as was reported, an abatement flooring project that took place in two of our schools, Armstrong and Woodgate. It was concluded on August 3rd. That was the removal of carpet material and replacement with a little before the last 15 to 20 years. We just have a few list items to check off, but the floors are ready to be occupied and taken care of this morning. I did want to last time I reported to this body, talk about registration.
Can I just say that to get out and see the floors in the buildings, they're beautiful. The flooring in Neil Armstrong, Woodgate, and Mariette also have the flooring, but they do a world of good for the school and the appearance of those schools.
Yeah. If anybody wants to go see the floors, that sort of thing, reach out or just let me know. I'd be glad to take you around and kind of let you know the scope of the whole project and what it looks like and what it took. It's not a problem for me. I reported the last time to the body that we were right around 385 registered. We talked about the conversion. Happy to say that we're now at 1375. And I think the last board meeting was 2 weeks ago. So we really, we have a little ways to go. But we're better than we were 2 weeks ago. So we're still pushing. And so as you reach out to your community, your constituents, make sure you let them know to register their children. If you have any questions or concerns, reach out to me via phone or email, and I will get right back to you. That was all the good news. So now, and I'm usually very good news, but right now I need to really just talk to you all about a crisis community. I know that this body will understand and support us in what we're trying to do with our endeavors. And so I would like, kind of close, I would like to know if you would kind of like just kind of see the screen. I just want to set the stage right now. I just want to show you a 3-minute, 2-minute, 41-second video.
Typically normal for us to go into September, maybe needing a handful of drivers, but now this September we're going to go in needing a couple of handful of drivers.
With just 3 weeks until the start of the new school year, there is a bus driver shortage.
Bus companies are going to extreme lengths to recruit new drivers, and some school districts may take drastic measures to resolve the issue.
Natalie Blomke joins us live with more. Natalie.
Many industries are suffering. They can't find employees who want to come back to work. Now the school bus industry has hit a major bump in the road and time is running out.
Help us get the kids to school!
In the southwest suburbs, a call to action.
We need your help!
At this Orland Park job fair, only 2 applicants showed up all day to become school bus drivers.
I anticipated it, to be honest. I wish it wasn't.
Timothy Poole helped organize the recruiting event, and he says he's never seen it this bad.
There's a severe shortage of school bus drivers, and really the only thing that comes to mind with this is these kids suffered so much throughout the pandemic.
Poole's employer, American School Bus, is part of a conglomerate of bus companies that serve Cook County schools, busing about 200,000 students. Right now, recruiter Julia Caesar says they are short 300 drivers for the upcoming school year.
We had a lot of people on furlough, and when they extended it to September the 6th for their payments, a lot of them are not coming back and probably won't come back until then.
Caesar is talking about federal unemployment benefits, keeping workers at home. To get them back in the driver's seat, local busing companies are offering extreme incentives.
We've increased the pay rate. We have a employee referral contest going on right now. In that contest, you can get $1,000.
The company also pays for driver training and licensing, but it's not enough.
Desperation is there. It's there so much where we're going to our customers and saying, we're gonna be running routes late.
Poole says the bus companies are making contingency plans with school districts, including a single bus driver running 3 routes and staggered start times so students can arrive at school in stages.
Being a school bus driver, it's one of the most rewarding jobs at the end of the day because you're the first person that kid sees and the last person that kid sees at the end of the day.
We mentioned the pay, $18 an hour. It is a part-time job, but healthcare is included for many positions. If you are interested in a job, you can head to cookillinois.com. Corey?
It's typically normal.
Just for reference, the bus company that you saw that was doing the interview, American, that's who services us. And so, we know Tim Hurst, we've been talking to him around the clock 4 or 5 times a day. And so, this is where we are at this point. We're going to have to be very creative. We're going to have to ask for a lot of flexibility. What we had was, we had a situation where we had 18 school buses, for instance, working our district. Now we've cut that, we've had to cut that to 9. And so it's going to be quite a challenge to us, 1,700 some odd students, the ones that qualify to and from school. Now, we do have a plan we're trying to put in place, but I just want to set the tone, and I want to let us understand, crystal clear and transparent. There's not a District 159 will be filled out and drop off. This is national, it's global scale. When will we come out of this? Some are saying we won't come out until probably late October, November. I think it's connected to governmental subsidies and when money's stop coming and people return to work. And so with that being said, I just want to give you a point of reference that me and Dr. Alfred, it was so challenging today. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where before you get to your room with the office, your boss calls you and says, put your bag down. I said, no, good, come on in here. And so we didn't even have a chance to sit down. We've been on this since like 8:30. I want to commend the leadership of the Colton Powell because once I got it, and we had to reach out to them, and they've been very flexible. I want to speak to you about one of the strategies that we have. If you look at the grid, up there. It talks to you, what happens is, we're going to go with the wave approach. Now what the wave approach is, we're going to, in the past we had one school bus, one run, one route. American Bus Company, they not only service us, but they service several other districts. And so what we found ourselves in the challenge of is that we're competing with other districts. So what they're saying is, I can't just stop, we just can't stop our contract with 162 of another district and just work solely with you. So they're spending their resources. And so what that means is, like for instance, bus company 1, it'll go to Colton Powell, it'll drop our students, our first wave of students, off at 7:20. And so what we're going to have to do is, and then I think it makes that drop, it'll pick up another group on the second round. Now, bus number 2, this way is real tricky. Bus number 2, it'll drop a group of our students off at 7:20. It'll then, they say, well, go back and pick another group, Golden House students up, and bring them here by 7:40. And so, 7:40. And so what I want to say is that I was very happy that Mr. Streeter, Assistant Principal Brown were very flexible, and we were really thinking outside the box. The first question is, what do we do with children at 7:20? You can't drop children off on the sidewalk and no one there to receive them. That's just not a good thing to do. And so we were able to make adjustments so that we can accommodate our children, because you can't leave children unmonitored at 7:20. And then, just because they're here, you don't want to just have them standing around in the lunchroom or running around, because we are still in pandemic stages and we have to be instructional sound. And so, that's what it looks like in the air. Now, next slide.
Wait, Doc, before you go there, because when they leave, when they drop off that the second set of students at Colton Powell, then they got to turn around and go pick up the kids for the elementary schools.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what Tim Poole was talking about in the video, that a single single driver is making 3 routes in one day.
Yeah, let's represent, what about our, she's right on point. Yeah, let me 4-hour bus, number 3, drops off the children at 7:20. Now, each bus carries around 50 students. Then, after the loads, he picks up another group and drops them off at 7:45. Then, after he drops them off, he goes and serves as a route for Woodgate. And so, each bus, where they were, serves maybe 1 to 2 runs. Now they're making 3 runs at a minimum. And once we, like I said, we had 18 buses, I'm sorry. Now we're at 9. And so that's just going to be 8. Now, PM was a challenge also. Let's slide.
Before you go to the PM,
I'm sorry.
what does that do with the start of school? What time does Colin House start if the second group is coming in at 7:40?
7:45.
7:40, oh, yeah, their day start, Dr. Streeter, you want to come talk about it?
Come on up here, Dr. Street.
Okay. You know, around here, we don't get ready, we stay ready.
We start at 7.
Take your mask off if you
All
don't.
right, can you hear me now? Okay, we start at 7:50. Advisory stuff, it runs from 7:30 to 7:50. So we'll be pushing it, but the students would not lose any instructional time if they got there around 7:40 to 7:45.
So in a sense, the kids aren't allowed to go to the library, so they get off the bus, they go straight to their class with their clear bags.
Yes, and so how we have it, this plan is fluid, is to have that second route of buses, having tables set up at the entrance point for their to-go breakfasts, so they can just grab them and go directly down that hallway to their respective home.
So they will be eating in the classroom.
Yes, all students are. They were eating in homes anyway.
Lunch too?
No, only they would grab and go breakfast, but lunch is going to be in the cafeteria here, as well as the small gym, correct, Dr. Street?
So now we're looking at kids taking their masks off at breakfast. So that's more exposure. They're taking their masks off at regularly scheduled lunch. That's exposure. Is that the same cohort that they're going to be in, that they're going to be eating?
They would still follow their cohorts, yes. Yes. But that was one of the recommendations. We're still following the CDC guidelines in terms of children. That's the time they still have their shields, their death shields. But that's the time only time that they do remove their mask is while they're eating or drinking.
Right, so please bear with me. So now we're waiting to get our new HVAC filters. We don't know a definitive date on installation for those filters, and we're relying on what we have right now. So to me, it's going to be vitally important for every classroom to still have a manual filter in those rooms, because this is additional exposure that parents may not have been ready for. We're still in the pandemic here, and I know we don't have a lot of options, but I'm just trying to see if we're brainstorming how to keep this exposure as little as possible to keep our children and their families as safe as possible. I'm sorry, one more. So we got 9 buses, we 50% now on the buses, and I know buses that were coming through my area back when they had to pick up other routes, sometimes it was 3 kids to a seat. What are we going to do if CDC says the capacity for the bus is 51 kids?
CDC says the capacity for buses is full capacity. That's what the guidance says.
Okay, so full capacity is 2 per seat.
Yes.
I know we're going to have days where it's 3 per seat. What are we going to do? We can't leave them on the bus stop. Are we prepared for that?
No, I think when they account for how many kids will be on the bus, that's part of the system that we put kids into that actually place kids on bus routes. So the bus company does not overload the buses. They only put so many kids. I think it's 2 to a seat.
That's the strategy. but
program?
I've seen 3 to the seat. I've seen it. When
What's
the
the
bus
name of it?
driver called off, there has been 3.
We'll double check that, but, yeah, full capacity is 2 to C.
Now look at, what time does Woodgate start again? So how much would this impact the elementary schools? Because now you have to go back twice to pick up the kids and then Woodgate, so what time? Your kids, they have their babies, so you want to make sure parents, if they're not at work, someone's at a bus stop with the children, or they're going to provide anyone to be at the stops since they're going to be waiting.
They should be waiting. It should be the same start time for the elementary. The big impact was
Good morning.
the whole valley in the early.
I have 2 questions real quick. In regards to the Colin Powell starting at 7:50, but the second wave is coming in at 7:45. How are we going to address it as far as target? Because they still have to have temperature checks, correct? So that may potentially that target rates may be up, or are we just going to waive target is due to that second wave? And the other part, once we solidify the bus routes, when will the parents get the information?
Tomorrow. Parents will get information out tomorrow. We actually finalized everything with the bus company and accepted the times today because we knew time was of the essence. And so tomorrow, parents will receive this information as well as what bus route their child will be on.
So how are we getting this information out to the parents? Because if it goes out via mail, they won't get it. If it goes out via email, some parents may say they don't check. So are we going to do use our transportation? He's over transportation. Will he be going door to door or reaching out to?
We're going to put out a robocall, as well as all the information will go to the. We're going to do the via U.S. mail. We're going to do email. We're giving the secretaries at all buildings a copy of the bus routes, which we do every year. And on the robocalls, we're going to encourage parents to call their school offices if they are in need of understanding when, what time and their route numbers. So, and then we're going to have boots on the ground that day in terms of making sure that buses are going the right directions, they are on track. Dr. Johnson and his team will be out on the first day of the school year.
Will there be trial runs so that day 1, 2, 3 can be a little bit more smooth?
Tomorrow and Friday. They just needed to know, we just had to kind of get everything together with Dr. Streeter and finalize everything. So now that we have finalized all of that with the bus company, that they will run their trials tomorrow and Friday.
And so then you'll know if there's any difficulty with the schedule times that we think they can start and finish a route versus what actually happens. We're not talking about even inclement weather. We'll kind of get a better vision of that.
So Dr. A, is it safe to say that the students all have ID numbers, right? So is it safe to say that we can get a list posted on the doors of each school with their ID numbers, so if parents aren't getting those robocalls, they can just go to that front school door and look up with their student ID to see what bus route they're on or anything? Can we do something like that? This case is not, cause I don't see us, getting out that quick.
But I think the secretaries, telling the parents to see their school secretaries.
Okay, they
Yes,
get to the school.
the school secretaries have that information every year.
Okay.
And the school secretaries are the ones that really keep the parents grounded in terms of busing and bus routes.
Okay.
Then to go back to Mr. Scott's question about targets, that's going to be fluid, that's a consideration. It's live, real-time information right here. So certainly we wouldn't have anybody marked tardy. We'll have to excuse them even though they are tardy. Wouldn't penalize them for the buses, but that's a consideration that needs to be added to the equation.
Then, before we do, we talked about the AM, but I just want to scan or the PM. Next slide. And so it's the same thing. Getting to school is one challenge. Getting our children home is a totally different challenge. So let me just give you an example. Where you see we say over there, that's reading pickups and routes. So for instance, home power dismisses at 2:30. And so what we're looking at is my first route. Let's keep route number 9. That's number 9. Home power number 9. Students will be picked up at 2:30. And then they will make that run. That same bus will then have to come back
Right now, they're taken care of for next week because we're the only school over in the neighboring communities that start on the 16th. So we're good next week, but we're going to be talking to them further about the elementary pickup next week. And we will be sharing that with the community, our parents, as well as the Board of Education as we have those further conversations.
So this is not,
Yes, sir, thank you. Right there on that point, just pointing out with the waves going out as far as egress and on dismissal. So does that mean, or help me understand, does that mean that it's going to be a staggered dismissal time? Since all of them are not going out, I'm assuming that we won't just allow the youth to just be out unsupervised, right?
No, you're right. So staggered dismissal times, and so the way things are set up at Colby Powell, you have a 7th grade wing, 6th grade hall, and the 8th grade. So we'll dismiss 7th and 8th grade because they're on the opposite end, so they won't mesh. And then allow them time to go out and have all hands on deck. And once they are on, then we'll dismiss the middle hallway last. And in actuality, our scheduled time kind of worked in our favor because we want the buses to be leaving out as quickly as they can. And so 2:20 is our dismissal time. And so that 10 at time, if we're moving expeditiously, we can get everybody on the buses and be rolling about 2:30.
How do the schools know which way they're in? How will they know?
so they're going to get a route sheet, and so based on your route, they go bus you on.
I honestly think this warrants another town hall meeting with the parents just on transportation, because if you send information out on this, it's going to be a lot of questions. It's going to inundate the secretaries in the building if the phone is consistently ringing. They can't answer but one at a time. Is there another way we can help the parents get this information, get their questions answered if they have any, and try and smooth out the wrinkles as much as possible?
I'm open to any recommendations, suggestions. You want to send people to me, and I can go to them and answer them. This is very good. We just have this information 5 hours.
So is there?
Every year they do it. And it's time to get today's meeting. So I'm glad we had this meeting today. But we just want to pick the best national person.
Yes, and thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Is there a way that you're available for a town hall meeting scheduled tomorrow so we can send out emergency roll call, emergency call to the parents and let them know, we have updated information and we would like to share with the parents so that they are aware?
I'm okay, yes.
Okay, can we have that?
Yeah, I'm just not available tomorrow, but Dr. Johnson can take it on.
Don't you have to have so many hour notifications to the parent before you?
Even if it's Friday, we definitely need to get the information out, but it's something that's important to this, I would think that,
I'm sorry, I just want to ask, because I'm not a parent, but
Oh, that's very valid.
it's a very valid point. We can't schedule a meeting tomorrow, and if we're talking about the.
Can we move Dr. Johnson?
Yeah,
We're talking- Okay.
Why they sidebar?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Scott.
I know we want to move forward. Just one quick question.
Yes, sir.
In regards with dismissal, I know we got the staggering at 2:20, 2:30 on the buses. Maybe Dr. Street can answer this more clear. What time does the staff leave? And if that's the case, will the staff need to remain? Is that going to create overtime, or how will that work?
And we did talk about that today because the greatest number of your staff, the buses, all the buses should be gone by the time the support staff leave the premises. So,
Okay, we have a scheduled open house. It's a virtual open house on Thursday, which is tomorrow. So what we can do is, since parents have already been notified, just utilize that as our town hall, so to speak, and we can reschedule an open house so that, because they're going to have a lot of questions. So that's just a thought.
Yeah, just send out a notification to let them know that in regards to the open house, we have more important information in regards to the bus service, so that they know. That'll make me want to get on more if I know it may be a problem in my child's bus station. But besides thinking, oh, it's orientation, I mean, I have to make sure,
So in lieu of the open house, send out additional information, let them know we have some more pressing information
Well, in the mornings, they're gonna pick up the further routes first, and then the routes like Brookmere, the closer routes, will be the second route, so it won't take as long to get them back to the building. On the back end, they're gonna do just the reverse. They're gonna take those shorter routes first, so they can get back and get those kids for the longer routes.
Okay. And if you have any more questions, I'm sure you're gonna formulate them to me now and that's what they're gonna stay on. You know how to reach me, and I'll try to do the best I can. We're working as a team. We're not working in the site. It's not like we're working by ourselves. We're working collectively, and we're gonna get the job done. We're gonna make the best of the situation. I just want to say this one thing to Ms. Franklin's point. We had mentioned the air filtration system, that sort of thing. We do have a bipolar ionization installation project. It begins on August 23rd. So that's going to be massive across the district. And what that is going to be to do is we use the science. And it'll be a way to suck out negative ions and the air systems. All air will be filtered through this system. And so, to your point, we are moving forward across the district. We'll begin August 23rd. And we'll get and we'll conclude. We want to make sure we take care of our children first. The district office will be last. But we should have concluded this project within 4 weeks. And with that, I'll rest. Oh, sorry.
Okay, so my first question, back to the buses, this is the last question. What are the plans for the pre-K babies? Because they ride their own bus and they're picked up separate from the elementary students.
I will have to talk to you about that tomorrow, because today we got the first information on the initial challenge. I didn't get all of our students. Pre-K rides their own separate bus.
Right, so are they not affected or?
Yeah, they will be affected, but we'll have details about preschool until tomorrow.
We got to take some time. We reached out to other bus companies that have names and different things. So we're turning over every song we can. I'll have some information tomorrow.
Okay. And then back to the flooring. You said all of the schools, so, and then I was made aware that Cedar Prairie would just get theirs. They're the only ones who haven't had the floor yet, so they would get theirs in winter break.
Yeah. And they would last on.
We said that's right. They would be the last to get it done. We didn't state when, because we was trying to get all the other projects out of the way. Cedar Prairie's carpet is new. They really only they got the carpet and then we went out on COVID. So we were trying to get some life out of that carpet before we just uprooted it and destroyed it.
Right. No, I'm only asking because we know flooring is much better than carpet, especially with holding jumpers and things like that. So I think that we need to put them on the list, even though they receive new carpet. Just want their school to be just as up to date with the flooring that's more protected for our kids than even, because I don't understand why we would have given them carpet if we were going to go back and do floors.
We didn't know at that time when they received the carpet, COVID had not hit. And they needed carpet replacement at that time. And so they received that carpet maybe November, December, and COVID came. Then at the end of February, early March, they were out. So they really had no life in the carpet. That's why we were just waiting. But we have all plans to transition that carpet into tile flooring.
Okay. So if we can just do that, especially with the ESSER funds, and just turn their school just
absolutely.
for the rest of the schools. Hopefully do it by winter break because those kids still, the flooring still is much better than carpet. So we can just.
All right,
Thank you.
Before we move forward, just something for us all to figure out. Literally, we're going to switch the orientation to like the town hall. That's going to address just how will other students and parents the other buildings know the information. So I think we do still need to have a town hall for the K-5 buildings. Sometimes.
Well, we can combine them. We could combine it all tomorrow. and we could get the message out, as soon as possible. We can combine it all.
Find it all, maybe preschool too?
Well, if we have preschool data, then we can address that, but tomorrow, we should have preschool. Sometime tomorrow, we should be in conversation with the bus company about preschool.
But if we do try to combine them, I don't know realistically if that's enough time for the other schools to know. I mean, we could try and see if, whoever can come on, but I think we still need to schedule a second one.
Absolutely. Even if it's Friday.
So we do like the whole house tomorrow, and we can elementary on Friday. Maybe it's time
We definitely want to
to do it Friday. First time?
6 to 7.
All right.
We're only addressing one topic, so it shouldn't be that long.
Okay.
And will it be recorded so it can be uploaded in case somebody needs to go back and review it?
And yeah, that's kind of our standard practice now. We record them all. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we're going to bring up our Chief School Business Official, Ms. Owen.
Good evening, board. I have a couple things on the agenda. I don't want to, I'm trying my best to get through it as smoothly as possible without taking up too much time. I have a couple of things to go through, and I believe we'll be able to cover them up. So I'll start with the tentative budget. I believe you all have a copy. Everyone should have a copy. So take a look at this. This is our picture of where we expect to be as far as our revenues and expenditures for FY22. So we're taking a look at our fund balance, which is where we ended our year. And then we'll take a look at the revenues. Under those revenues, we're going to see the snapshot of the real estate taxes, the other local resources, evidence-based funding dollars, and our other state grants. We'll also take a look at ESDR grants and federal grants. We're just doing a snapshot of where we anticipate to be. We'll also have our expenditures underneath. We'll have a snapshot of the salaries, the employee benefits, purchase services, our supplies and materials that we purchase, our capital outlay, our ESDR expenses, other objects that we spend on. We'll take a look at the non-capitalized equipment as well as our out-of-school, out-of-district tuition. This particular document is not on the screen. This one is in your packet, and I'll go through this shortly. So taking a look at the tentative budget, we're anticipating for the add-on that we will be receiving in real estate taxes $21,145,000. And then in our other local resources, I don't want to go through all the numbers unless you want me to. For our add-on, we're looking at $29,719,000 as the estimated number that we would receive. For our operation and maintenance, in 3 areas, we're looking at real estate, other local sources, as well as the evidence-based funding dollars. Combined, we're looking at $4,238,000. Bond and interest, which is standard based on the levy, we're looking at $1,799,000. Transportation, we're looking at $1,484,000. And I want you to note that due to transportation costs not being fully expended this past school year, our reimbursements will be much lower than you're used to seeing because they're only going to reimburse us for the dollars that we did spend. And then moving on to municipal retirement, we're looking at two areas, real estate and other local sources. That's where we receive our funding, and we're looking at a total of $338,000 that we should receive. Capital projects, as you know, we have a huge capital project going on right now, and then we have smaller projects going on as well. And so we're looking at other local resources as well as ESDR grants that will help to fund our projects. And so altogether, we're looking at $7,006,000. Working cash, real estate taxes is providing us $157,000. For tort, we're looking at other resources, we anticipate $10,000. Life safety, other local resources, we anticipate $50,000. And so, I'm sorry.
50 or 5? 50,000 or 5,000?
50.
So is that 5?
My apologies, my document does have 50, so, that was, it should say 50. And that's what we anticipate receiving. And then for the total, with all of those revenues, we're looking at $44,801,000. That is the total revenue. That's what we expect to receive this year. That's not including our fund balance just yet. So moving on to our expenditures, we're looking at the salaries, the benefits, the purchase services, so on and so forth.
Of other local sources for $2 million for capital projects. Where is that $2 million coming from? What are other local sources?
Other local sources. So there's an agreement with Amazon, and Amazon will, through taxes, be providing $2 million to the district.
Where are we supposed to get that? Because the truth and fact of the matter is, taxes are a year behind. We would not be getting that in the very near future.
Well, with the discussions that have been had with Attorney Izzo, we anticipate receiving that first installment with the fall taxes. And then the second in the spring. So there will be $1 million we anticipate for the fall, and then the second portion of that will be in the spring. That is what has been communicated. Yes, that's what has been communicated.
Well, as you should know, taxes are 1 year behind, so that would be taxed on the vacant land in 2020. That would not equal $2 million in taxes.
Is there a way for us to check on that?
Attorney Izzo did say it would be prorated on that first one. So he did say that.
So do we know what that prorated amount is going to be? Because that amount is, this Amazon dollars are calculated in this capital funds project part of the work, building cash funds, not costing the community a dime. So can we find out what that prorated amount is and when we will actually be getting it, because that's the information that's been disseminated to date?
Absolutely. The shortfall is anticipated to, with any shortfall that we have from the funds, we do still have a fund balance that will be able to cover those expenses.
I have one more question.
So you're saying we will take money from our fund balance to do that? to cover that, which fund balance consists of tax dollars, and we've been telling the community, well, you all have been telling the community that there will be no cost to the community. Which one is it?
It will be no cost to the community, and the fund balance will be used because we have an access in our fund balance.
Where did those funds come from? They came from the...
A lot of it, the last 2 years, we've probably put $7 million in the fund balance from, and I guess I want to call it savings that we did not spend in special education, transportation, and so we had a surplus in our fund balance at the end of fiscal year 20 as well as 21 that went into the fund balance.
So we can expect to see a breakdown of that
Sure.
by what day?
Pardon me?
Can we expect to see it by next week, next Friday, or within the week?
Yes.
All right, we'll be looking for it because we're often promised many things that we never receive, so I'll be looking for it.
Can you share those things, Ms. Brown? That you're looking for?
I'm sorry, there's an echo, so it's difficult for me to hear. Is that a question addressed to me, to Ms. Brown?
Yes. Was there anything specific that you were looking for that you may want to share? You said that you've been looking for other things. If there's something specific that you would like to share that we can provide for you.
I'd just like to know how you plan to cover that shortfall. Less funds, but what it'll be pulled from. I just want to see what you're trying to accomplish.
Okay. We'll pull it together and we'll have it for next week. Thank you.
May I ask one more question regarding what you presented so far? So the real estate taxes that are on here, is that zero increase, no CTI, no nothing, or are we asking for an increase in real estate taxes on this over last year? Are we, does this 21 million, whatever, all the way across their real estate taxes totaling 25.9 million? So does that include any kind of us asking additional monies this year for real estate taxes?
No, the dollars that are calculated for real estate taxes, it's through the levy process. So when the levy took place, those dollars we anticipate based on the calculations of knowing how much is going to be prorated, the percentage that we anticipate our taxpayers paying. And so over the years, our taxpayers, 85% is what we look to receive. 85% of those taxes that the taxpayers in our community provide. And so we use, I'm sorry,
Maybe I didn't ask it right. So I know we have a levy every year. So I'm asking if this year's levy is equal to last year's levy, or is this year's levy equal to 1.5% increase over last year, or a 3% increase over last year? Does this levy have an increase?
No, we levied for the max both years.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I believe I understand that you're asking, what did we levy? Okay, yeah, so we levy for the max, so we can't go over 5%. And so we reach out and we ask for the max, because we know that we're going to fall short of what we asked for. And so, usually I explain that levy process as it's almost as if you're asking, you know you have a need, and so if you ask for that need and you know you're gonna come short, your idea is to ask for a little bit above that, so when you fall where you need. And so in a nutshell, that's what we did with the levy process.
Okay, just a statement, because when we were going for the new capital project, my understanding was no cost to taxpayers was going to be no cost to taxpayers, and if we're asking for for a maximum levy amount than it is going to cost us in the long run. That's just my understanding.
We have asked for the maximum levy way before I even came. So for the years that I've been here, we've always asked for the max. And prior to, if we look in prior reports, we've always asked for the max and the levy.
I'm not talking about what we normally do. If there's an opportunity to give back to the community or not increase the community's expense, that's what I thought we had an opportunity to do here. But instead, we're going to ask for the max as they've done in the past so that we can fund a capital project. I just want to be transparent with it. I mean, I just want to make sure that my understanding is correct. And so that's where we are. We did max the levy for 5%, which is our max.
Yes, and I will say that is standard. And so unless the board specifically says decrease the levy, which is usually not recommended because once you decrease, you can never recuperate from that. And so the idea is to, wherever you've been, you want to maintain because you will cause a disruption to your funding as you're used to. And so the community would see a difference because that, for example, if you levy 3% as opposed to the max, that following year, you can only ask for the max on what you previously received. So once that drop takes place, it's going to pretty much stay lower.
So is that what the other, I don't know if it was Orland, so they would have left it, let's just say that we had that situation. We had the 5%, we found out that we didn't really need it, and we would have issued checks for refund to make sure that we don't mess with that 5% for every year levying, so that if you wanted to give back to your community, you could do that in the form of a refund check or something like that, because there have been communities in our surrounding area that have done that within the past few years. I'm just trying to get clarity.
I would have to look into that a little bit more because I'm not sure what they've done with that as far as refunding. And I don't want to get into that without having that background knowledge. So that's a process that's something totally different from what the practice has been. And so we can, at some day, if that's what the board would like to do, visit that and do some research and discussion on it. But the levy was not prepared with the intention of taxing taxpayers for the project. It was prepared as past practice to continue that same practice.
I totally understand that. Thank you. I have more questions, but I'll...
Okay. So we'll go to the expenditures. So for the expenditures in the ad fund, we anticipate $28,132,000 being spent. Operations and maintenance, $3,468,000. For bond and interest, $1,982,000. Transportation, we anticipate $2,600,000. Municipal retirement, $860,000. Capital projects, $5,006,000. Working cash, we don't anticipate spending in working cash. Tort, $300,000. Life safety, at this point, we do not anticipate spending in life safety. And then the total, $42,348,000. So when we take a snapshot of the total revenues received and looking at that number against the total expenditures, we're looking at having a $2,453,000 remaining thereafter. That is what we anticipate. Taking those dollar amounts in the revenue that we receive versus the expenditures overall, we're looking at, and this is how we came to that dollar amount of $2.4 billion. We're looking at having $1.5 billion left in the ed fund, $770,000 in operation and maintenance, bond and interest shy of $183,000, transportation $1,116,000. That would be a deficit. And in municipal retirement, $522,000. $2,000 deficit. Capital projects, $2 million. Working cash, $157,000. Tort, $290,000 deficit. Life safety, $50,000. And that gives us the total positive balance of $2,453,000. Now we take that, and this is when we look at our fund balance. And this is what we'll have to say, if there is a deficit in any one of those, where we've spent a little bit more, a lot more, than we received that fiscal year, then we take those funds and we make sure that our fund balance can cover it. And so when you look down below for fund balance, the ending fund balance, that's when we're taking our ed fund and we're subtracting the revenue over and under, or we're adding. And so you'll see in the ed fund, we'll still have $19,066,000. O&M will have $1,040,000. Bond and interest, $691,000. Transportation, $3,837,000. Municipal retirement, $4,354,000. Capital projects, $499,000. Working cash, $3,094,000. Tort, $3,081,500. Life safety, $2,605,500. Leaving a fund balance, an anticipated fund balance of $32,269,000. So the district will still be financially sound. However, taking a look at the projects that we have going on is why we're going to see some of these differences. I know you're probably used to seeing the fund balance, not the fund balance, but the end of the year snapshot being a little bit higher, but with the projects going on, that will bring it down, as well as some of the other things that I'll discuss in this presentation.
So I do have a question. The transportation will go into deficit, but with us not having the 2 years, I thought that we were well over. So why would it be a deficit if we had to use transportation?
You're looking at, which line are you looking at? The over or under? Okay, so again, this line is revenue that we received that year.
Okay.
And looking at the expenditures for that year. Remember, we're not going to receive a lot because we didn't use transportation this past year. So that is the reason why you're going to see that gap, and it's going to show a deficit. But remember, that money that we didn't use last year is actually in the fund balance.
Okay.
So it just goes to the top. And then we look at what we have this year, what we spend this year, and if we come short, 9 times out of 10 is because that leftover is in our fund balance, and we move from there.
Well, actually, before you came on board, Mr. Moody gave us a report, and we pulled $1,079,989 from the transportation, and we took that and allocated it towards the capital funds project. This year, we're anticipating, per your last presentation to us last month, a $1.9 million increase in our transportation costs. Will that come down, considering we are only going to have 50% of the buses?
Yes. Okay. I was just going to say, at this juncture, we would have to take a look at where we are financially, what that is going to cost, and measure it against what the contract stated. It should be, but we would have to actually take those numbers, and once we finalize, it should come down. But I don't want to say the exact dollar amounts. We have not worked those numbers until it's finalized.
That was one of the questions I asked the bus company today. And so they said that I would work with a different team to talk about the contract and in the areas of the contract that they're not providing.
So can we have that for next month's report? We can find out if there's a savings with that.
And even just an email copy of the version that you have, because our numbers are really different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then when we get to the working cash, I do have a question on for that, of what was spent previously in our working cash.
When we looked at earlier,
over cash. I was just wondering what does that cover, who spends that?
It shows in the budget you sent, it showed, if you go to the payables, it shows that 123,000 was spent in our working cash. So if you could break that down on if it was spent or if that was an error.
You said what happened?
That's in. Hey.
Yeah, what we were looking at earlier, that was an increase.
So on the fund balance page, and I'll skip to that now. On the fund balance page, and I believe we're looking at the same document, correct? Fund balances for 2020, 2021. Is this the document?
I believe that's what she's reading.
Okay, so looking in the working cash, which is Fund 70, at the beginning of the year, we started with $2,812,648.89. We received in revenue $123,538.59. Our expenses were $0. And so adding those two together, our fund balance increased by $123,538.59, leaving our working cash at $2,936,187.48.
So we see it on that one. There was another page that had it as if it was a spending, but we can, when I find it, we can go back over that part. And I know one of the additional questions was the one that we have to approve tonight for payrolls. It went from where it used to be this high, but now it's like 1.8 million in payroll. Can you explain why that jump was there?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll go there. Let me look at my here. So as far as payroll is concerned, we operate with 26 pay periods throughout the school year. And so because of that, there are 2 times a year that there will be 3 payrolls. And so because July was that month, there's an extra payroll, and it has increased that payroll for July by $711,686.76. Sorry, let me say that again. $711,686.76, because that was the 3rd payroll for that month.
Can I go back to your funds balance and your fund 80 for tort immunity? That's legal liability for the district. Did we actually have $241,185.96 worth of legal liability? Is that like we had open lawsuits that we had to pay out that amount of money for? Is that?
I'm sorry, can you tell me which document you're reading from?
Your funds balance.
So with the tort and immunity, there are multiple things that come from tort. So it's not just claims. So there's also insurance that is paid from that fund as well. And so you have your life insurance that comes from there. You have our auto for all of the vehicles that we have. That insurance comes from there. So there's multiple insurance payments that are made from tort in conjunction with if there are any claims that would be used for tort as well.
And as well as our insurance company that we service.
Yes.
With that chart, 300,000 in tort immunity, can you give us a breakdown, not tonight, but I'd like to see a breakdown on just how that is spent. What kinds of things that are spent out of that fund? I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
What our expenses have been coming from from that fund.
Absolutely.
Does that include the cost of our attorneys?
I would double check that.
Attorney fees?
I would double check that, and I'll get back to you on it.
FYI, you're doing an amazing job. You just, if everyone doesn't know, she just come into this position, so thank you, just FYI. Thank you.
I said, I appreciate her coming very prepared. This is certainly a lot more detailed information than we had been getting prior to you coming, when we had someone just as an interim filling that spot. So I appreciate your diligence.
Thank you. Thank you. When I try to speak through the presentation, because the majority of the meat and potatoes I did explain through the tentative budget. But if we can go to the next slide. So I will do a snapshot of the historical financial summary. Next slide. The history from 2011 to 2020 shows the district's position when we're looking at the revenues. That's the red line, it's on top, and the expenses are in blue, and they're on the bottom. So taking a look at that trend, the revenues that the district has seen from this time and during this time period has always been above the expenditures. And when I say that, I mean that we have and we are financially sound, and our spending has always been maintained so that way we do not run into the issue where we have that blue line where it's above the red. And so as long as we stay in this position, the district is doing well and we will remain financially sound. Next slide. Fund balance for all the funds. So those are the funds that you see, Fund 10 through Fund 90. If you take a look in 2008, 2009, the district's position was not as healthy as it is now. So when you see that spike in 2015, that's a result of the $9.3 million capital project that occurred years before. So in 2015, the district actually received the funding that they had already spent out years prior when doing that project.
And that was for Cola Power.
Yes, and that's for Cola Power. And so that's why you see that spike. And that was because that money was brought to the district. Because we spent the money, as we said, we received that money for that project accordingly. And so the district has, as you see, been well off since 2015. It has increased. In 2020, it increased mainly because of the things that we did not spend. But if you look at 2019, there was still yet an increase. And so the district is on a constant increase, which is a good thing, and we will maintain that. Next slide.
And that's good because although we didn't spend, we were actually still spending because we were doing they did the corridors for the schools, for us. So we still were spending.
So we'll go into the development of the fiscal budget, which we kind of went through, so we'll kind of go through these very quickly. Next slide. So there are some major assumptions that we have to make with those revenues, and the first we will see is the net real estate tax collection percentages that they will decrease approximately 2% due to the economic crisis being realized within the community. So we will have to pay attention to those decreases. The evidence-based funding dollars will be flat, so there's no increase there. Local revenues will drop by $700,000 as interest earnings and corporate taxes will fall. The district will receive approximately $500,000 in CARES dollars and increase in expenses accordingly. So though we have an outlet to receive, those funds are going out the door as we receive them as well. Next slide. Assumptions that we must make when it comes to our expenses. The budget makes the assumptions that the district will be providing face-to-face instruction for this school year, for the majority of the school year. So when we take a look at this budget, it's because we anticipate students being employee back in the building full-time. And so if that should not happen, take into consideration that that will make a change in what we anticipate as well. Salaries will increase approximately 3% based on collective bargaining agreements, and then other changes in compensation and a decrease in staff size. So we have to take a look at the fact that we are in negotiations with both certified and support staff. And so we will see an increase there in salaries. Employee benefits will also increase as salaries increase. So we have to make sure that we take that assumption into consideration as well. Supply expenses will increase 16% significantly due to COVID-related expenses. And as we saw earlier with transportation, the same is true in every caveat. We're looking at rates going up for everything, gas included. So these supplies, as you know, with wood, different things that we have to purchase, the prices increase. And also with the delay of people going back to work, is also causing products to not be readily available, trying to get them shipped from one place to the next. So all of these have to be taken into consideration as well. Our district tuition is projected to jump to its historical averages of approximately $2 million. So as we saw this past school year, we did not spend as much, but we expect them to go back to where they have been normally with an increase, because all expenses have really gone up. Debt payments will decrease due to restructuring of the outstanding debt in FY20. And so there was a restructuring of the bonds that took place, and the design was to reduce that. It's not really reducing the debt, but it helped the taxpayers in the long run. So that will decrease our debt payments, and you'll see that if you do a comparison to prior years, what we were paying and what we will be paying. Other expenses will increase at the rate of inflation, as I stated before. Next slide.
Ms. Owens, before you move on, the $2 million for out of state is, Dr. Alfred, is that students that we send to other schools? What is that $2 million?
Yes, those are students that are sent to outside placement.
So the budget revenues for all funds. So we're taking a comparison of these revenues from prior years. And so if you look at the source, we have the real estate, other local, general state aid, is now considered, evidence-based funding. Then we have the other state grants, federal grants, and then the CARES grant. So taking a look at that, in past years, as you know, the CARES grant did not exist. And we're looking at the trend. We were at $36,004,000 in FY16. And then there was a slight decrease, $35,159,000. And then there was an increase, $36 million in FY18, $649,000. And then in FY19, we had a nice increase, $38,377,000. And then in FY20, an increase yet again, $39,394,000. And then FY20, slight decrease, $37,952,000. And so one of the areas that you see that we had a decrease, we were going on an increase, but sometimes it does fluctuate. With the refunding project, it decreased the taxes that the taxpayers are paying for those bonds. And so as a result, that's less than the district will receive. And the way the taxes come in, as we stated before, it's behind here. And so that gap is why we see that decrease. It wasn't a huge decrease in the real estate taxes, but there was yet a decrease.
We don't put that on here? Ms. Owens, you have the right, I think you have the wrong slide. You're not on 2022 budget year. That's somebody put the wrong slide. That's the wrong one. The one that we sent out is the 2022 budget year. Sorry. Okay.
Okay, so
Because your budget should be, right, your really should be FY22.
you it'd be best to follow the packet that you have. My apologies. For the screen. And so taking a look at your FY21, there was a decrease. And then we'll look at our FY22, and then there will be an increase. So we'll be at $44,517,000. And so that's a trend of the increase and the decrease.
And that's why we see the ESSA funds. And I was following you. And speaking of ESSA funds, do you know when the staff will receive their second part that they're supposed to be getting when they turn back to school?
Dr. After you have the dates.
I don't, ESSA 3 have not been approved yet, and Ms. Friday was going to talk a little bit about that. ESSA 3 have not been approved, so once that's approved from the state, then we can distribute those funds, because those funds can only be taken out of ESSA funds.
Has it been submitted already for approval? Has it been submitted for approval already?
Yes.
Next slide. Okay, never mind, don't worry about the slides. Next page. There's a breakdown of the budgeted revenues by source. And so we're just taking a look at the real estate taxes. We have all of the different ways that we receive our funds. And so real estate taxes is where we receive our meat and potatoes. So there's 58% of our revenues coming from our real estate taxes. And then you have the restricted federal grants bringing in 20% of our funds. And then you have evidence-based funding bringing in 11% of our funds. And then you have other local, 7%. Restricted state grants, 3%. So that's the makeup of our revenue sources. The next page 8 in your packet will give a snapshot of the budgeted expenditures of all funds in comparison to prior years. And so we'll be taking a look at the total expenses for each year. So in FY17, $36,149,000 was expended. In FY18, $35,129,000. FY19, $35,610,000. FY20, $34,570,000. We're about the same almost every year. FY21, $34,050,000. And then FY22, we anticipate $45,348,000. So that is what is projected for FY22 expenditures. If you go to your next page, page 9, it gives a snapshot, a breakdown in a pie format of our expenditures. Of course, as we know, the majority of our expenses are salaries. So we spend the majority on salaries at 38%. And then we have benefits and purchase services that are the same. They both pull in 13% of our expenditures. We have ESSER. This is temporary, but we have ESSER bringing in, costing us 15%. And then we have our capital outlay at 7%, supplies and materials at 5%, and then debt service and out-of-district tuition at 4% each. Going to the next page, page 10, financial history and the budget. And this goes back to 2012, and again, as stated before, our revenues in red are above our expenditures in blue. And as long as we maintain and stay below that those revenues, our district will maintain its healthy financial state. On the 11th page, we just give a snapshot of the revenues versus the expenses, showing those surplus versus or deficits that we may have. And starting from 2011 to 2022, you can see that the trend has gone up and down throughout. And in 2020 and 2021, you see that they kind of remain constant. And expenditures that have increased as a result of the pandemic. The next page, fund balances of all funds, gives that snapshot to show in red where we anticipate to be in 2022 with our fund balance. So a slight decrease, as stated earlier. We're used to seeing about 3 to 4 million being in our remaining fund balance. This year we anticipate 2 million being left in our fund balance for that year. Are there any other questions regarding
I don't have any questions. I just want to say thank you.
Yes.
I've been looking for a presentation like this for years. Thank you. This was great.
Thank you. And I do want to say, Board, you do have, I don't know if you wanted me to go through it, but you do have the item that was requested regarding the new STEM center and admin buildings expenses. Thus far, if you want me to go through that, I can, but I did provide you a copy. Okay.
Please, because thank you for doing it, because I know it was a request that I had. It's the new STEM center. That's the one we're looking at right now?
Yes.
Everything seems to say capital outlay. I was kind of looking for a different kind of breakdown. Is everything a capital outlay, and everything so far has only been, is there one company name on here? I'm sorry.
Yes. So at this point, Board, because the project where the construction workers, that team just got started, we really haven't received their bills yet. So they have to start doing the work before they can send us a bill. So we only pay for the percentage of work that they do as it happens. And so because they just started, the bill just came in, so we have not paid that bill yet. We usually pay within that 30-day snapshot. So what you see here is what we paid on the project thus far, and it usually starts with the architect. So we pay the architect because they have to draw up the designs, they have to do so many different things, and I'm not an expert in their field, but there are an itemized list of things that they have to do before the project can even begin. And because they've done that work, they have already begun to bill us accordingly. So this is what we have paid the project, and it's only been our architects thus far. And so it's listed in our operations and maintenance fund. What I will do is transfer this. It's only going to be a matter of account coding, so that way the description reads capital projects. So I will be changing that. This was done prior to me getting here, and so once I saw this, I've been working with Dr. Grossi to make sure that we make the transition and that it is done correctly. So we paid thus far. So I'll start at the beginning. The project beginning cost was listed at $7,748,000. To date, we have made 6 payments to the architects for a total amount of $695,203.84. And so for the most part, the architect's fees are almost completely covered. We may receive 1 or 2 more bills from them, but that will pretty much wrap up their portion, and then we'll start to see it's called All Construction Group. We'll start to see their expenditures listed. And so I will just take this and continue to add as the expenditures come through, and it'll show which company that those funds are coming from. So that way you'll have this report every month.
Can you do a detailed breakdown of what that payment is, like why they need that $700 now prior to?
For the architects?
Architect, and if we go into.
Yes.
So once we go to building, you will see. They just have to start doing
But yes, there is a detailed architect report on what that cost incurred.
Yes. So they do, when they submit their invoices, they do detail, they itemize what these specific costs are all construction, they will do the same thing. Theirs is very, very lengthy, very, very detailed. It's about 50 pages long for each bill, but nevertheless, they do submit detailed, itemized information as for the cost. And it's on a percentage basis, so they only can bill us according to the percentage of the project that they have completed.
So is that what you're asking to see, Mrs. Franklin?
Yes, that's excellent, but I wanted to know, is it like kind of facetious to ask for all expenses related, whether it's public relations, whether it's whatever, any expense related to the capital project be included with this report so that we'll know exactly what dollars we spent on it?
So can it just be uploaded into Word docs so that we can see it versus all printing all the paper? I think that will cost printing.
Okay. I will work on trying to make sure that we have all of the costs associated. So you're looking for all costs associated with the project.
And you also like going through that, like going through it, even though I know it's 50 pages, is there somebody that's assigned to the project to make sure that that funds you?
Yes.
Sorry, this is all right, well, make sure that you're giving us.
So that would be me. And so I received the first one, like I said, we haven't paid. So we received it a few days ago, and I have to go through it. And so once I go through it, I'll be able to say, hey, okay, we can do this. Okay. And then we'll process your payment in time.
Okay.
And that is what I have for those. I know that there was one other item that I want to cover, and that is the vacancies.
Yeah, I would.
Okay, so we do have some vacancies. For certified staff, we need one kindergarten teacher. It's a bilingual endorsement that we would need. And so right now, there's a long-term sub in place. We need one technology teacher. And I'm sorry, that was for Seaton Prairie. That kindergarten teacher is for Seaton Prairie. Technology teacher is needed at Martin Yates. Right now, there's a long-term sub. Science at Colin Powell for 6th grade. Right now, we do have a long-term sub in position. Science positions are really, really hard to come by. And oftentimes, math is really hard as well. So we also need
And technology.
And technology. So we also need a science teacher at Colin Powell for 7th grade as well. Right now, we do have in place long-term sub. Applied tech at Colin Powell is also needed. Long-term sub for now.
But they have the credentials. I mean, they don't have the credentials, but they're qualified to teach.
Qualified substitute teachers. And then we have math specialists at the elementary level that we need. And right now we do have a long-term sub in position. We need one instructional assistant at Woodgate, and that's for pre-K. We also need a social worker at Colin Powell, just one. We already have one. We need to house two. And so we do have a need for one additional social worker at Colin Powell. And then we need one 3rd grade teacher at Marion Gates. And that person will be replacing, I'll leave it at that. And so we have 2, but we do need one more 3rd grade teacher at Marion Gates. And as far as non-certified staff, we need one lunch attendant at Woodgate. We need 4 crossing guards, one for Marion Gates, one for Neil Armstrong, one for Woodgate, and one for Seaton Prairie. And these are usually picked up by our staff members that are part-time because they want to get that extra. And it's hard to staff these positions if it's someone from the outside because it's only a couple hours of work. So usually this is picked up by in-house. And then we need one building secretary and personnel because we have an open position there. And one attendance coordinator at the district office.
So when you say qualified substitute teachers, does that just mean, Dr. Alford, can you answer that first, please? Like, does that just mean you have to have an associate's degree? Because they're teaching me, you know, I know we have a teacher shortage, but just so that we have an understanding, because these are core subjects.
No, yeah, they have to have a degree and they are vetted through the state. So the state vet all, they have to get credentialed through the state of Illinois. So we could not pick them up because the state has not approved them to be substitute teachers. But what we have tried to do is place them where their background lies. Say for instance, someone has, the math bachelor, she's a retired teacher who's, has sub-credentials, and so we're using her in the math area. One of the science person has a science background. They just may not have teaching credentials, but many of them are working on them. So we do try to fit them in those areas that they have credentials in.
Is there a program we're using to vet out the teachers?
Not necessarily a program, but we do utilize certain media streams. For example, we have LinkedIn, there's K-12 Jobs Finder Illinois, there's the IASA. So those are sites where a lot of educators will go on to look for jobs. And so we're using those means to find people to fill these positions. We have filled a lot of positions, and so
It was still filling.
and we're still going.
And I know it's not just our district. I see some schools now using Facebook, having their teachers use Facebook as a means to find teachers. Like, anyone looking for paraprofessional, they're like going down the list in surrounding districts right now. Yeah, so I was just wondering if we were using some other outsource besides our training.
Yes.
So that, for the most part, that's everything that I have. We do have food service, but I'll let Dr. A present it.
Okay, it's just a dash here. You want to come up? Is your team here? Is she? Well, welcome. The floor is yours. If you want to talk to the board, let us know exactly what your goals are. You've been around to all of the schools this past week. You saw what you have to work with, and you can talk about your needs and the direction that you're headed for this school year.
Good evening, everyone. I am James Atkins, co-CEO of Just a Dash Paper.
I'm Sheena Hawkins, co-CEO of Just a Dash Paper.
And we're super excited to be part of Elementary School District 159 food service. Just real quickly, we'd just like to thank you guys for the opportunity to service not only your students, but the community as well. We know the students are going to be re-entering schools, and we're glad that we're going to be a part of that as they get a fresh look at product and service in the cafeteria. We look forward to obviously an awesome school year, but even a better partnership with the district as well.
So I know that you guys had been working for a very long time, and so we're a little bit different, and we are a no canned good, fresh and frozen company. We've been in business for...
Can you guys speak up big out?
I'm sorry. No problem. We have been in business for 13 years. We currently service about 31 schools. We're super excited, like you said, to be here. I don't know if you guys have any questions for us or if you want us to explain anything, but we're more than willing to.
I do believe you brought meals for the board tonight.
We did. So in the library, we do have a taste of Just a Dash. We bought a little something from our cold menu, hot menu, things that we service in our currently that are on our menu.
So my only question would be, just like the previous, there will be a monthly menu for the students, so they'll know what they're getting every day for breakfast and lunch. We service our after school as well as, how with COVID relief, we would have some periods where they were allowed to come pick up meals, like hot meals on the outside. Do you guys do all of those things as well?
Yes. So we were very successful at a lot of our school districts. We serviced, I think one of our school districts served 1,700 a day. We had very good outcomes. So we did groceries, bulk meals, we did individualized meals. And so in this district, yes, we will be serving breakfast and lunch, supper. We do have menus and nutritionals online. We use an online service called NutriSlice, and so they'll be able to go on and be able to see everything that they'll be getting, as well as nutritional. So if you have any dietary or concerns, they'll be able to instantly, parents will be able to instantly see if, count carbohydrates and see anything or, know exactly what their kids are getting every day.
Awesome. It was good meeting you guys the other day, and I look forward to our partnership moving forward.
Thank you.
You won't come back for some more? Come on, you're glutton for punishment. Come on.
I'm sorry, board. Please allow me this time. I need to make sure that I communicate that the budget, this tentative budget that you will be approving tonight, it will be on display. It's been put in the paper. It will run its 30 days. Thereafter, we must have a budget hearing, and the community must know about it. So I need to come back up to say, we have to remind the community that there will be a budget hearing so that they can ask questions if they so choose. And so the next board meeting, on September 8th, there will be a budget hearing on that date. So we've already done steps on August 10th. We presented the tentative budget, and we put the notice in the paper. It is on display for the public to come to the district office to see. And then today, the board approves that tentative budget. On September 8th, there will be a public hearing for that budget. And then prior to October 7th, after the board approves that final budget, it will be filed with the Cook County, Illinois School Board of Education. So I wanted to make sure that I made you all aware of this is the timeline. These are the things that we have set. So once you're approved the tentative tonight, we'll move forward, have that budget hearing on September 8th, and then we'll get that approved, and we'll move forward to the next thing.
And to know that this is an evolving budget. This is just tentative.
It's a lie. A budget it's like a body. Okay, it's living. It's constantly changing as we spend, as we receive. And so the grant comes up and we say, hey, we applied for this and we were approved. That's more money in. And so it's a living document that continues to evolve. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to bring Ms. Friday up to tell us about some upcoming events, some exciting things going on or that is happening.
The Board of Education, employees, and our stakeholders who are watching. So I just have a few things that I'd like to share. Last Tuesday, we had our STEM Center groundbreaking ceremony, and it was very well attended. We also had media coverage from NBC, ABC, the Chicago Tribune, and the South Suburban News. I was running around today, and I was only able to find one, but the editor-in-chief said he would drop some off to the school district. But I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the parents. We had elected officials there. We had State Representative Debbie Myers-Martin, the village presidents, Richmond Park and Madison, and of course we had district employees there. But we know that the family, Dr. A has an organization that worked with us, and it's the Superintendent Advisory Commission, and they worked very hard to get the word out, but they were not in attendance yesterday, so we just want to thank them publicly for the work that they've done. On the 21st of this month, we are partnering with the clerk of the Village of Madison for a back-to-school event entitled Unity in the Community. And so we are going to have a parade and a rally ending at Colin Powell Middle School. And so we're going to have hot dogs and different snacks. We're going to give away book bags and school supplies. They'll have the little bouncy machine that the kids love, and it's just going to be a good time for all. So you all will be getting updated information about the event tomorrow. I know I already talked to you, Mr. Scott, and your Richmond Park Raiders will be a part of the program as well, so thank you for that. It's going to be on the 21st, and it's from 11 o'clock to 3. Okay, I want to talk about the strategic plan. So in 2019, we did a strategic plan with 340 stakeholders. Those stakeholders included district personnel, board members, students. We actually had 25 students, 8th grade students from Colin Powell as a part of the process, and elected officials and community members. And so with that being said, we developed our strategic plan. And the 5 key elements of the goals of the plan were actually therefore was to maximize the academic and personal growth of each district child, to establish ongoing transparent communication with all stakeholders, to maintain and create effective business operations system, I think we're doing that, and to create and maintain a 21st century learning environment. So, this strategic plan, we look at every quarter, and every administrator that is responsible, whose department is responsible for meeting those goals, they update the strategic plan on a quarterly basis. So what we've decided to do, in talking with Dr. Adams, what we've decided to do is to take another look at the strategic plan, because we want it to be aligned with a comprehensive district plan that she just spoke of earlier. And so we're going to be looking at the strategic plan once again and updating it. But this time we're going to do it internally. And so we plan to start working on this during the first quarter, hopefully in the month of October. What we'd like to do is to get the school year started, get kids acclimated to being back in the classroom, teachers acclimated to being back in school, and then start on the strategic plan. Lastly, I want to talk about grants.
Will be a part of the process?
I'm sorry.
Can we have volunteers support a part of that process?
Sure, that's not a problem. If you're interested in being a part of the process, make sure you let Dr. Elford know, and so then we'll make sure that you're invited. Thank you for that. Okay, then I want to talk about the Astrogram. We did, I know someone, Ms. Franklin asked earlier, did we submit the grant? Yes, it has been submitted. We're patiently waiting for the acceptance. We know that there are a lot of schools, you know, this is a statewide grant. So there are a lot of schools that apply for it. We don't see a problem with it being approved, but, you know, we're just patiently waiting. So as soon as we get the yay, then we'll make sure you and the rest of the board knows. Also, I just want to talk about our after-school grant. Know if Dr. Streeter is still here, but I want to talk about our after-school grant, which we've gotten for several years. And over the years, we've utilized it for coding, our Saturday coding classes. We've also utilized it for our mentoring programs. For example, last year was the first time we had a mentoring program starting at the elementary school level, as well as a girls mentoring program. Prior to then, we only had it for the guys. So we extended the program that year, last year. Well, we just got notice that they're going to announce the grant for this coming school year. We intend to do mentoring once again. But we had money that was held over that we need to utilize. And with that, I worked with Dr. Streeter and his team. And so last week, in addition to having a groundbreaking ceremony that was great, our kids also did some great things. Every day, we had a day for 6th graders, one for 7th graders, one for 8th graders, and it was called the Jump Start Program. And it was really interesting to see how they interacted with the staff. The staff came in and it was basically to prepare them for school, because if you think about it, the 7th graders never stepped into this building. And so that was grant funded. It was a real good opportunity, and so we hope to continue to work with Dr. Streeter and his team in those type of grant funded activities. That's all I have. Does anyone have any questions?
I just want to say that the Jump Start was well attended.
Yes. Oh, I need to say 270 children, parents enrolled their kids. And it was like a day or so before, and I started getting all these calls from parents like, you know,
like Miss Morton.
Did you?
It's all who didn't register the kid.
All right, and it was like, can we register a kid? And I said, sure. you know, all kids are welcome, and so we get some last minute kids that register, but I tell you, they were so excited, and the sixth graders are so little. They're so little, but they were so, I can honestly say, they were more engaged than the eighth graders. They were really, really excited about the opportunity to meet the teachers, to meet some of the kids that they're going to be going to school with, and it was really a great opportunity. And so I just want to openly thank Dr. Streeter for working with me in developing this program. Now, that's all I got. Anybody got any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Friday.
Thank you.
And with that, Madam President, I give my report.
I do have two things on here. I don't know if you know what the, can't hear you. I'm sorry. It's a committee of the whole.
We did Mr. Committee of the Whole. And we wanted to kind of talk about the Committee of the Whole so we can start having our committee meetings, which will take some of the pressure off of our board meetings. So many times when you have committee meetings, you don't have to try to pack everything into a board meeting. So we need to set aside the date and time with the board of when we will have the Committee of the Whole meetings, so that we can actually start sharing and so do some in-depth presentations at the meeting of the whole.
I was hoping we could change from the committee of the whole and go back to the individual committees where you would have an HR committee, you would have a policy committee, a curriculum committee, a buildings and grounds committee, and a finance committee. That way, the committee of the whole, I kind of like it in that it's just one meeting, but today I haven't seen where we get as much information because the separate committees were able to have their meeting, and usually it's one or two board members per committee, get all the information, and then you bring it back, and it allows you to cover more. It allows you to go deeper in depth. It allows the board to be better informed. I know at one point, as Edgecombe mentioned, she wanted it, and some of us said we prefer to stay with Committee of the Whole. I am hoping that we can reconsider.
So since you guys have come back, we haven't had a Committee of the Whole meeting yet, and prior, an extensive, we haven't had. Yeah, if it was done online, I don't recall. It had to be done online, which is not what we have done previously. We found that those separate meetings, when everyone comes to try to bring back the information, they may not bring back a question that someone else had. So if we found it to be better that if we all hearing at the same time, and that person was only having to come to one meeting, it can be beneficial to the entire board versus you may go to a meeting and what you find to be important may not be as important to another board member. So their note-taking may be, practices may be different for the other. So we probably can revisit that, but let's just see how the Committee of the Whole meetings go while we're in person. And then maybe you may have a change of heart.
Okay, so I understand that you're not wanting to consider it right now, but